You used to love every gathering. Now your finger hovers over decline. That shift is not weakness. It is one of the most intelligent things your mind has ever done. There was a time when your phone would light up with a message from an old friend and your heart would leap with genuine excitement. A casual dinner invitation from coworkers would feel like a gift. A weekend barbecue would be something you looked forward to all week. You would mark it on your calendar with a little spark of anticipation. You would plan what to wear. You would think about what stories you might share. The social fabric of your life felt like a warm blanket that you wrapped yourself in gladly. But something has shifted. You notice it in small moments. A text arrives from someone you have known for years. They want to meet up. They say it has been too long. And they are right. It has been too long. But instead of that old familiar excitement, you feel something else entirely. You feel a heaviness, a reluctance, a quiet wish that the message had never arrived. You stare at the screen. You read the words again. You start typing a response. Then you stop. You put the phone down. You tell yourself you will reply later. But later becomes tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes the day after. And when you finally do respond, you say something polite but non-committal. Maybe next time. Things are a little busy right now. Let me check my schedule. You send the message and then you sit with a strange cocktail of emotions. Relief that you bought yourself some time. Guilt that you feel relieved. Confusion about why something that used to bring you joy now feels like a chore. And underneath all of that, a quiet accusation that you level at yourself. What is wrong with me? Why have I become this way? When did I turn into someone who does not want to see their own friends? If any of this resonates with you, then take a slow, deep breath right now. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Because what you are experiencing is not a flaw. It is not a failure. It is not evidence that you are becoming cold or selfish or antisocial. What is happening inside you right now is one of the most well-documented and beautiful transformations in all of human psychology. Your mind is not shutting down. It is waking up. It is recalibrating. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do at this stage of your life. And by the time you finish reading this, you will understand precisely why this shift is happening, and why it might be the best thing that has ever happened to your emotional well-being. For decades you operated in a mode that psychologists describe as information seeking. This is the mode that dominates our younger years. From our teenage years through our 20s and 30s and even into our early 40s, our brains are wired to prioritize expansion. We want to meet new people. We want to explore new social circles. We want to cast the widest possible net. Every new acquaintance represents a potential opportunity. A job lead. A romantic connection. A business partner. A mentor. A gateway to a world we have not yet discovered. During this phase of life, our brains actually reward us chemically for social novelty. Meeting someone new triggers a release of dopamine. Walking into a room full of strangers feels exciting rather than draining. Saying yes to every invitation feels natural because our brains are telling us that more connections equal more chances of survival and success. This is not shallow or calculated. It is deeply biological. Our ancestors survived because they built large social networks. The young hunter who knew everyone in neighboring tribes had access to more resources and more protection and more potential mates. Our brains evolved to push us towards social expansion during the years when we are building our place in the world. And you did exactly that. You said yes when you were tired. You showed up when you would rather have stayed home. You laughed at jokes that were not funny. You endured conversations that drained you. You attended gatherings where you felt out of place. You did all of this because some deep instinct told you it was necessary. And it was. It served you well. It helped you build a career. It helped you find a partner. It helped you establish yourself in a community. It helped you raise children with a support system around you. Those years of social effort were not wasted. They were essential. But here is what nobody told you. That mode was never meant to last forever. Your brain was always going to shift gears. And that is exactly what is happening now. Researchers in developmental psychology have long studied what happens to our social motivations as we move through the decades of our lives. What they have found is remarkably consistent across cultures and generations. As people enter their 50s and 60s, something fundamental changes in how they approach relationships. The shift is not random. It is not pathological. It is triggered by an awareness that begins to settle into the deepest layers of consciousness. The awareness of time. Not time in the abstract sense. Not the ticking of a clock on a wall. But time in the most personal and profound sense. The recognition that life is finite. That the years ahead are fewer than the years behind. That the energy you have is precious and limited and deserving of careful stewardship. This awareness does not always announce itself dramatically. You might not wake up one morning with a sudden revelation about mortality. Instead, it seeps in quietly. It arrives when you attend the funeral of someone your own age. It whispers when you notice that your knees ache after a long walk. It nudges you when you realize that your children are now older than you were when you had them. It settles into your bones when you look at the calendar and calculate how many summers you might have left. And when this awareness takes root, something remarkable happens in your brain. Your priorities rearrange themselves. The part of your mind that once said go meet everyone now says protect your peace. The voice that once urged you to say yes to everything now gently suggests that maybe this time you should say no. The system that once rewarded you for quantity now demands quality. This is not decline. This is refinement. This is your brain doing some of the most sophisticated emotional processing it has ever done. It is looking at the vast catalog of relationships you have accumulated over a lifetime, and it is making careful, deliberate choices about which ones deserve your remaining energy. Think about it this way. When you were 25, you had a huge closet full of clothes. Some of them fit perfectly. Some of them were a little uncomfortable, but you wore them anyway because they were trendy. Some of them you kept just because someone gave them to you and you felt guilty throwing them away. But now you are at a point in your life where you want to open that closet and see only things that make you feel good. Only things that fit. Only things that reflect who you truly are. And so you start letting go. Not with anger. Not with resentment. But with a quiet clarity that comes from knowing yourself deeply. The clothes that never fit right go to someone who will love them. The ones you kept out of obligation get folded and released with gratitude. And what remains is a smaller collection. But every single piece is perfect. That is exactly what is happening with your relationships right now. Your brain is Marie Kondo ing your social life. And the results might feel uncomfortable at first. But they are leading you somewhere beautiful. Let us talk about what this transformation actually looks like in your daily life. Because understanding the theory is one thing. But recognizing these changes in your own experience is what will truly set you free from the guilt you have been carrying. The first change you have probably noticed is a new ability to say no. Think back to who you were 10 or 20 years ago. If someone invited you to a gathering, you would go. Even if you were exhausted. Even if you had a migraine. Even if every fiber of your being wanted to stay home with a cup of tea and a good book. You would drag yourself out the door because you believed that saying no made you a bad person, a bad friend, a bad colleague, a bad neighbor. The guilt of declining was worse than the discomfort of attending. So you went. Every time. You smiled through the fatigue. You made small talk when your mind was elsewhere. You stayed later than you wanted because leaving early felt rude. And then you came home and collapsed. Not just physically but emotionally. Because pretending to enjoy something you do not enjoy is one of the most exhausting things a human being can do. It requires constant monitoring of your facial expressions. Constant calibration of your tone. Constant suppression of your true feelings. It is performance. And performance at that level takes a tremendous toll. But now something has changed. When an invitation arrives, you pause. You check in with yourself. Not with your sense of obligation. Not with your fear of judgment. But with your actual honest feelings. And sometimes those feelings say, I would love to go. And you go. And you enjoy it. But other times those feelings say, not this time. And instead of overriding that message, you honor it. You send a kind and warm decline. You do not make elaborate excuses. You do not lie about being sick or busy. You simply say, I appreciate the invitation, but I am going to sit this one out. And then you wait for the guilt to crash over you like it always used to. But something strange happens. The guilt is smaller now. It might still be there. A little whisper in the back of your mind. But it no longer has the power to change your decision. You have crossed the threshold. You have learned that saying no to others can be a way of saying yes to yourself. This ability to set boundaries is not something you were born with. It is something you earned. Through decades of experience. Through countless situations where you said yes when you meant no and paid the price in exhaustion and resentment. Through the slow, painful process of learning that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Psychologists who study self-determination have found that people who feel a sense of autonomy over their own choices experience significantly lower levels of stress and significantly higher levels of life satisfaction. When you feel that your actions align with your true desires rather than external pressures, your entire nervous system responds positively. Your cortisol levels drop. Your blood pressure stabilizes. Your sleep improves. Your immune system strengthens. Saying no is not just an emotional choice. It is a health choice. And your brain knows this. That is why it is making the shift. That is why the old guilt is fading. Your mind is protecting you. It is telling you that you have earned the right to choose your own company. The second change is something that might puzzle you if you do not understand its origin. You have become more sensitive to the emotions of others. Not less sensitive. More. You walk into a room and you can feel the tension between two people before a single word is spoken. You listen to someone tell a story and you pick up on the sadness underneath their laughter. You hear a colleague complain about something minor, and you sense the deeper frustration they are not expressing. This heightened sensitivity means that social situations now cost you more energy than they used to. A 2-hour dinner party that would have left 25-year-old you feeling energized now leaves you feeling like you ran a marathon. Not physically. Emotionally. Because you are processing so much more information than you used to. You are not just hearing words. You are reading micro-expressions. You are detecting vocal patterns. You are absorbing emotional undercurrents. Your brain is doing an enormous amount of work, and it needs time to recover afterward. Some people are born with a nervous system that processes stimuli more deeply than average. Researchers have studied this trait extensively, and found that it affects somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population. People with this trait tend to notice subtleties that others miss. They are deeply moved by art and music and nature. They need more downtime after stimulating experiences. And most relevantly for our conversation, they find large social gatherings particularly draining. If you have always been someone who feels things deeply, then aging has likely intensified this trait rather than diminished it. Your decades of experience have given you an enormous database of emotional knowledge. You have seen so many facial expressions. You have heard so many tones of voice. You have witnessed so many human dramas unfold. And your brain uses all of this accumulated wisdom to process social situations at a depth that most people cannot even imagine. This is a gift. A profound and beautiful gift. But it comes with a cost. And that cost is energy. When you come home from a social event feeling utterly depleted, it is not because you are weak. It is because you just did something incredibly complex. You navigated an environment full of emotional signals with a level of sophistication that would exhaust anyone. Your brain is telling you to rest. To recharge. To give yourself permission to be quiet for a while. And when your brain starts telling you to avoid situations that drain you too much, it is not being antisocial. It is being wise. It is protecting a precious resource. Your emotional energy is not infinite. And your brain has finally decided to start managing it carefully. The third change is perhaps the most liberating of all. You have stopped arguing with people who see the world differently than you do. There was a time when a disagreement would light a fire in your belly. Someone would express an opinion you found wrong or offensive or simply misguided, and you would feel compelled to respond. To correct them. To present your evidence. To make your case. You would engage in lengthy debates at dinner tables and in comment sections and over the phone. You would stay up at night rehearsing what you should have said. You would feel a burning need to be right. To be understood. To change minds. But something has shifted. Now when someone says something you disagree with, you notice a different response arising. Instead of fire, you feel something closer to a gentle shrug. You think to yourself, well, that is how they see things, and I see things differently, and that is okay. You do not feel the need to convince them. You do not feel the need to be right. You do not feel the urgent compulsion to make them understand your perspective. You simply let it go. This is not apathy. This is not giving up. This is one of the highest forms of emotional intelligence that a human being can develop. Researchers who study emotional regulation across the lifespan have found that people in their 50s and 60s consistently demonstrate superior ability to manage negative emotions compared to younger adults. They are better at choosing their battles. They are better at letting go of things they cannot control. They are better at maintaining their inner equilibrium in the face of external chaos. This ability is not something you can learn from a book or a seminar. It is forged through experience. Through all those arguments you had in your 20s and 30s that left you feeling drained and accomplished nothing. Through all those times you tried to change someone's mind and realized afterward that it was a waste of breath. Through all those moments when you finally understood that other people's opinions are not your responsibility. Your brain has learned from every single one of those experiences. And it has arrived at a conclusion that took decades to crystallize. My peace is worth more than being right. That single realization is more valuable than any degree or certification or professional achievement. It is the foundation of genuine inner peace. And it is something that only comes with time. Young people cannot shortcut their way to this wisdom no matter how many self-help books they read. It has to be lived. It has to be earned. And you have earned it. The fourth change is one that might surprise you because our culture does not often celebrate it. You have fallen in love with being alone. Not lonely. There is a vast and important difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful feeling that you are disconnected from others against your will. Solitude is the peaceful choice to spend time with yourself. Loneliness is a wound. Solitude is a sanctuary. And you have discovered the sanctuary. You know those moments. Saturday morning. The house is quiet. You make yourself a cup of coffee exactly the way you like it. You sit in your favorite chair. Maybe you pick up a book. Maybe you look out the window. Maybe you just sit and think. And in that stillness something happens. A warmth spreads through your chest. A feeling of being exactly where you are supposed to be. A sense that this moment right here is enough. You are enough. You do not need to be anywhere else. You do not need to be with anyone else. You are complete in this moment. Researchers who study well-being have found that people who can enjoy solitude without anxiety tend to report higher levels of life satisfaction than those who constantly need the company of others. The ability to be comfortable alone is a marker of psychological maturity. It means that your sense of self is not dependent on external validation. You do not need someone else to tell you that you are interesting or funny or valuable. You know it. Not in an arrogant way. In a quiet, settled way. Like knowing that the sun will rise tomorrow. It is just a fact. A fact about yourself that you have come to accept through decades of living. This comfort with solitude also opens doors that are not available to people who cannot be alone. When you are at peace in your own company, you have access to deep thought, to creativity, to self-reflection, to the kind of inner work that only happens in silence. Some of the greatest insights of your life will come not in conversation but in quiet moments of solitary contemplation. Your brain needs that quiet time. It uses it to process experiences and consolidate memories and make connections between ideas that seemed unrelated. When you are constantly surrounded by other people and other voices, your brain never gets the chance to do this deep background processing. So when you choose solitude, you are not just resting. You are giving your mind the space it needs to do its most important work. Now here is where I want you to pause and really take something in. Everything I have just described represents growth. Every single one of these changes is a movement toward greater wisdom and deeper self-knowledge and more authentic living. But I know that the culture around you does not always frame it that way. The world we live in valorizes busyness. It celebrates packed social calendars. It treats extroversion as the default setting for a healthy human being. Social media shows you images of people surrounded by friends at rooftop parties and beach gatherings and holiday celebrations. And the implicit message is that this is what happiness looks like. This is what a full life looks like. If your Friday night involves a couch and a cup of tea and silence, then something must be wrong with you. But that message is a lie. It is a lie told by a culture that confuses activity with meaning, that mistakes quantity for quality, that equates being busy with being important. The truth that psychologists and philosophers and poets have understood for centuries is that the richest lives are not necessarily the fullest ones. The richest lives are the ones lived with intention, with presence, with awareness. And that is exactly the kind of life you are building right now. Whether you realized it or not, every time you said no to a draining social obligation, you were saying yes to a more intentional life. Every time you chose an evening alone over a night out, you were choosing depth over surface. Every time you let go of a relationship that no longer served you, you were making room for something better. You were making room for yourself. So let us talk about what to do with this understanding. Because insight without action is just entertainment. And you deserve more than entertainment. You deserve transformation. The first thing I want you to do is forgive yourself. Right now. For every invitation you declined and felt guilty about. For every text you left unanswered for too long. For every gathering you left early. For every friendship you let fade because maintaining it felt like more than you could handle. Forgive yourself for all of it. Not because those things do not matter, but because you were responding to a deep and legitimate need. You were not being lazy. You were not being selfish. You were not being cold. You were being human. A human whose brain was trying to protect them. A human whose emotional reserves were running low after decades of pouring them out for others. A human who needed to start putting themselves first, and did not know how to do it without feeling guilty. You did the best you could with what you understood at the time. And now you understand more. So let the guilt go. It served its purpose. It kept you accountable during the years when you were building your social world. But that construction phase is over. You are in the refinement phase now. And refinement requires different tools. Not the hammer of obligation, but the scalpel of discernment. There is a concept in psychology that speaks directly to what you need right now. It is the practice of extending to yourself the same kindness and understanding that you would extend to a good friend. If your closest friend came to you and said, "I feel terrible because I keep turning down invitations and I think I am becoming a bad person," what would you say to them? Would you agree? Would you tell them, "Yes, you are right, you are becoming cold and selfish, and you should feel ashamed"? Of course you would not. You would look at them with warm eyes. You would say something like, "You have given so much of yourself to so many people for so long. It is okay to take some time for yourself. That does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who is finally learning to take care of themselves." So why do you refuse to say those same words to yourself? Why do you hold yourself to a standard that you would never apply to someone you love? This is the work now. The work is not to force yourself back out into a social world that drains you. The work is not to override your instincts and say yes when every part of you says no. The work is to learn to treat yourself with the same compassion you have always shown others. To speak to yourself with gentleness. To honor your own needs without shame. To trust that the voice inside you that says "I need rest" is not a voice of weakness but a voice of wisdom. You have spent decades listening to the needs of others. Your children needed you. Your partner needed you. Your colleagues needed you. Your friends needed you. Your aging parents needed you. And you showed up. Every single time. You showed up even when you were exhausted. You showed up even when you were heartbroken. You showed up even when you had nothing left to give. You showed up because that is who you are. Someone who cares. Someone who gives. Someone who puts others first. But the time has come to show up for yourself with the same dedication and devotion. Not instead of showing up for others, but in addition to it. Because you cannot sustain your generosity if you do not replenish your reserves. You cannot keep giving warmth if your own fire has gone out. And right now your fire needs tending. It needs quiet. It needs stillness. It needs the gentle breath of solitude to fan its embers back to life. Let me tell you what the science says about what happens when people in their 50s and 60s actually embrace this shift instead of fighting it. The research is remarkably clear and remarkably encouraging. People who consciously reduce the size of their social networks in midlife and focus on a smaller number of high-quality relationships report greater emotional well-being than people who try to maintain large social circles. They experience less anxiety, less depression, less loneliness. That last one surprises people. How can you be less lonely with fewer friends? But it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Loneliness is not about how many people are around you. It is about how connected you feel to the people who are around you. You can be at a party with 100 people and feel utterly alone. And you can be sitting in a quiet room with one person who truly understands you and feel more connected than you have ever felt in your life. Quality over quantity is not just a cliché. It is a neurological reality. Your brain actually produces more oxytocin, the bonding hormone, during deep, meaningful interactions with people you trust than it does during superficial interactions with acquaintances. So when you spend an afternoon with a close friend having a real conversation about real things, your brain is flooded with chemicals that make you feel safe and happy and loved. But when you spend that same afternoon at a networking event making small talk with strangers, your brain produces significantly less of those feel-good chemicals. Your brain knows the difference. And it is trying to steer you toward the interactions that actually nourish you. This is why you feel energized after coffee with a close friend but drained after a large social event. Your brain is giving you clear feedback. More of this. Less of that. The people who age most successfully are the ones who listen to that feedback. There is another fascinating finding from the research on social relationships and aging. People who have a small number of close, trusting relationships in their later years actually live longer than people who have large but shallow social networks. The quality of your relationships is a better predictor of longevity than almost any other factor. Better than diet. Better than exercise. Better than whether you smoke or drink. The strength of your closest bonds is one of the most powerful determinants of how long and how well you will live. So when you look at your life and see that your social circle has gotten smaller, do not see that as a loss. See it as a concentration. You have taken the same amount of love and connection that used to be spread thinly across dozens of relationships, and you have focused it into a few deep, powerful bonds. That concentrated love is more potent than anything you had before. It is the difference between a flashlight that illuminates a wide area dimly and a laser beam that cuts through steel. Your love has become a laser beam, and the people who receive it are lucky beyond measure. Now I want to address something that might be lurking in the back of your mind. A fear that many people in this stage of life carry but rarely speak about. The fear that if you keep pulling away from social situations, you will end up completely alone, isolated, forgotten. That the narrowing of your social world will continue until there is no one left. This fear is understandable, but it is based on a misunderstanding of what is happening. You are not withdrawing from human connection. You are upgrading it. You are not closing doors. You are closing the doors that lead to rooms you do not want to be in so that you can walk more fully through the doors that lead to rooms where you belong. The relationships that remain after this natural pruning process are the ones that will sustain you for the rest of your life. They are the ones built on genuine mutual affection, on shared history, on deep understanding, on the kind of trust that only comes from years of showing up for each other. These relationships are not fragile. They are among the strongest things in your life. They do not require constant maintenance through obligatory gatherings and forced conversations. They are maintained by something much deeper. A phone call when it matters. A message that says I was thinking of you. A willingness to sit with someone in their pain without trying to fix it. A shared laugh about something that only the two of you would understand. These are the threads that hold your most important relationships together. And they do not require you to attend a single event that drains you. I want you to think about someone in your life right now. Someone who you know with absolute certainty would be there for you at 3 in the morning if you needed them. Someone who you could call after not speaking for 6 months and pick up right where you left off. Someone who knows the real you. Not the polished social version. Not the brave face you show the world. But the messy, complicated, beautiful real you. If you have even one person like that, then you are wealthy beyond measure. And I am willing to bet that you have more than one. These are the relationships that your brain has been protecting. These are the relationships that it has been clearing space for. Every time it made you feel reluctant about a social obligation, it was saying save your energy for the people who matter most. Listen to it. It knows what it is doing. There is something else I want to talk about. Something practical. Because I know that even after everything I have shared, the guilt might still come knocking. Old habits are stubborn. Decades of social conditioning do not disappear overnight. You might read all of this and feel a sense of relief and understanding. But then Monday morning arrives and a coworker invites you to lunch, and the old guilt machine fires up again. So let me give you a framework for handling these moments. When an invitation arrives and you feel that familiar heaviness, I want you to pause before responding. Give yourself at least an hour. Do not say yes or no in the moment. Just acknowledge the invitation and tell the person you will get back to them. Then during that hour, check in with yourself honestly. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, will this interaction energize me or drain me? Second, do I genuinely want to go or do I feel like I should go? Third, if I say no, will I feel relieved or will I feel regret? If your honest answers are that the interaction will drain you and you feel like you should go rather than want to, and you would feel relieved if you said no, then you have your answer. Decline with warmth and without guilt. You do not owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to spend your time. A simple "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I am going to pass this time" is enough. No elaborate excuse needed. No white lie required. Just a simple, honest expression of your choice. And if the person reacts negatively, then that tells you something important about the nature of that relationship. People who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. They will not punish you for saying no. They will not guilt-trip you or make you feel small. They will say no problem, maybe next time, and they will mean it. Anyone who cannot accept a polite decline is someone whose presence in your life you should seriously reconsider. Now let us talk about what to do with all the time and energy you are reclaiming by being more selective about your social commitments. Because this is where the magic really happens. When you stop spending your evenings at gatherings that drain you, something remarkable occurs. You suddenly have time. Time that is truly yours. Not borrowed from sleep. Not squeezed between obligations. But spacious, generous time that stretches out before you like an open field. And the question becomes, what will you do with it? The answer is whatever makes your soul feel full. I mean that literally. Whatever brings you a sense of quiet joy. Whatever makes the hours pass without you noticing. Whatever leaves you feeling restored rather than depleted. For some people it is reading. Curling up with a book that transports them to another world. Losing themselves in a story that has nothing to do with their daily responsibilities. There is research showing that reading fiction increases empathy and emotional intelligence. So when you lose yourself in a novel, you are not wasting time. You are enriching your inner life. For others it is gardening. Putting your hands in the soil. Watching something grow. There is something profoundly therapeutic about working with the earth. Studies have shown that the bacteria in soil can actually trigger the release of serotonin in your brain. Gardening is literally antidepressant. For some it is walking. Not power walking with a fitness tracker and a goal. Just walking. Slowly. Noticing the way the light falls through the trees. Hearing the birds. Feeling the air on your skin. Walking meditation has been practiced for thousands of years, and the science backs up what practitioners have always known. It calms the nervous system. It reduces rumination. It brings you into the present moment. For others still it is creative expression. Painting. Writing. Playing music. Cooking an elaborate meal for the sheer pleasure of it. Building something with your hands. These activities engage your brain in a state that psychologists call flow. A state of total absorption where the self-conscious mind quiets down and you become one with what you are doing. Flow states are among the most pleasurable experiences available to human beings. And they are almost impossible to achieve in a noisy social setting. They require solitude. They require the very thing that you have been guilty about choosing. Whatever your version of this looks like, the point is that the time you reclaim from draining social obligations is not empty time. It is sacred time. It is the time in which you become most fully yourself. And the person who emerges from these quiet hours is someone with a deeper sense of identity. A calmer nervous system. A more creative mind. A more generous heart. Because here is the beautiful paradox. The more time you spend replenishing yourself in solitude, the more you have to give to the people you love. You show up to your important relationships refreshed rather than depleted. You listen more carefully because your mind is not cluttered with social noise. You love more freely because you are not resentful about your time being taken from you. The people in your inner circle get the best version of you. Not the exhausted, obligated version that used to show up at every event. But the rested, centered, present version that can truly connect. This is the gift of the shift you are experiencing. It does not just benefit you. It benefits everyone who matters to you. Let me also address something that comes up frequently for people navigating this transition. The question of what to do about friendships that have run their course. You probably have people in your life who you have known for a very long time. Decades perhaps. People you shared important experiences with. People who were once central to your story. But when you are honest with yourself, you realize that the connection has faded. That you no longer share the same values or interests or worldview. That the friendship is sustained not by genuine affection but by habit and history and a sense of obligation. This is one of the most painful realizations of midlife. Because it feels like a betrayal to acknowledge that a friendship no longer serves you. Especially when the other person has done nothing wrong. They are not a bad person. They are just a different person than they were 20 years ago. And so are you. The truth is that some friendships are meant to last a lifetime, and some are meant to last a season. Both kinds are valuable. Both kinds contribute to who you are. The summer friend who got you through a difficult time at work. The college friend who helped you discover who you were. The neighbor who made the early years of parenthood bearable. These people shaped you. They left fingerprints on your soul. And the fact that you have grown in different directions does not erase any of that. You do not have to maintain a friendship that no longer nourishes you in order to honor what it once was. You can hold gratitude for what the relationship gave you while also acknowledging that you have both changed. You can let go with love. This does not mean you need to have a dramatic confrontation or make a formal announcement. Most friendships do not end with a bang. They end with a gradual, gentle fading. Longer gaps between calls. Shorter messages. Fewer plans. Until one day you realize that it has been a year since you spoke and neither of you reached out, and that is okay. It is not a failure. It is a completion. A natural and organic conclusion to a chapter that has run its course. And making peace with this is another marker of the emotional maturity you are developing. Young people cling to friendships desperately. They feel that losing a friend is losing a part of themselves. But you have lived long enough to know that you do not lose yourself when a friendship ends. You find more of yourself. Because every relationship you release creates space for something new. Not necessarily a new person, but a new depth. A new quiet. A new dimension of self-knowledge that was not accessible when your attention was scattered across too many connections. I want to take a moment to talk about the role of nostalgia in all of this. Because I suspect that part of your guilt comes from comparing your current self to your younger self. You remember the version of you who was the life of the party. Who could stay out until midnight and wake up ready for more. Who thrived on social energy and seemed to have an unlimited supply of enthusiasm for human interaction. And when you compare that person to who you are now, you feel a sense of loss. Where did that person go? What happened to them? Did they die? Are they gone forever? No. They did not die. They grew up. They evolved. They became wiser. They did not lose their capacity for connection. They refined it. The energy that used to be sprayed in all directions is now focused like a beam of light on the things that truly matter. You are not less than who you were at 25. You are more. Infinitely more. You have been shaped by joy and sorrow. By triumph and failure. By love and loss. By all the messy, beautiful, complicated experiences that make up a human life. And the person who emerges from all of that is not someone to mourn. It is someone to celebrate. So when nostalgia whispers to you about the good old days when you were social and outgoing and full of energy, I want you to whisper back. Those days were good. And these days are good too. Just in a different way. A deeper way. A way that I could not have understood back then, but I understand now. And I would not trade this understanding for anything. Let me also speak to something that is specific to the generation that is navigating this transition right now. If you were born in a certain era, you grew up in a world where community was not optional. It was the fabric of daily life. Neighborhoods were tight-knit. People knew each other. Doors were left unlocked. Children played in the streets. Adults gathered for barbecues and block parties and holiday celebrations. Being social was not a choice. It was simply how life worked. And then the world changed. Technology arrived. Neighborhoods fragmented. People moved for jobs. The old structures of community dissolved. And your generation was caught in the middle. You remember what it felt like to be part of a genuine community. And you also live in a world where that kind of community is increasingly rare. This creates a unique kind of grief. A mourning for a way of life that no longer exists. And sometimes what feels like guilt about declining social invitations is actually grief about the fact that social life is not what it used to be. The gatherings you are declining are not the spontaneous, joyful, organic gatherings of your youth. They are scheduled, planned, often obligatory. They require driving and parking and small talk with people you barely know. They lack the ease and naturalness of the social world you grew up in. And some part of you knows this. Some part of you is saying, this is not what I am looking for. This is not the kind of connection I crave. And that part of you is right. What you are craving is not more social interaction. It is more genuine connection. And sometimes the path to genuine connection runs through solitude. Because it is in solitude that you clarify what you really need, what you really want, who you really are. And from that place of clarity you can reach out to the people who truly matter and create the kind of connection that actually nourishes you. Not the performative kind. The real kind. Here is another thing I want you to understand. You are not alone in this experience. Millions of people are going through the exact same thing right now. They are sitting in their houses feeling guilty about the same invitations. They are staring at the same text messages with the same reluctance. They are questioning themselves in the same way. Am I becoming cold? Am I becoming selfish? Am I losing my ability to connect? And they are all wrong. Just like you were wrong. This is a universal human experience. It is as natural as the changing of seasons. Spring is the time of expansion and growth. Summer is the time of abundance and activity. Autumn is the time of harvest and selection. And this stage of your life is autumn. You are harvesting the wisdom of everything you have experienced. You are selecting the relationships that will sustain you through the winter of life. You are preparing your inner world for a season of depth and richness and reflection. This is not decline. This is one of the most beautiful seasons of human existence. Artists and writers and thinkers throughout history have done their most profound work in this season. It is the season of perspective, of understanding, of compassion that comes not from naivety but from having seen enough of life to know what truly matters. You are in that season now. And the reluctance you feel towards superficial social interaction is simply a sign that your inner landscape is ready for deeper cultivation. Let me give you one more piece of science that I think will bring you comfort. Researchers have studied what they call social selectivity in aging populations, and they have found something remarkable. Older adults who are more selective about their social interactions do not just report greater happiness. They also show better cognitive function. Their brains are sharper. Their memories are stronger. Their ability to focus and think clearly is enhanced. Why would this be the case? Because cognitive resources are finite just like emotional resources. When you spend your mental energy navigating complex social situations with people who drain you, that energy is not available for other things. For creative thinking. For problem solving. For learning new skills. For engaging deeply with ideas that fascinate you. By reducing the cognitive load of unnecessary social interactions, you free up mental bandwidth for the things that enrich your mind. So your brain is not just protecting your emotional well-being. It is protecting your cognitive well-being. It is ensuring that the mental resources you have are directed toward the activities and relationships that bring the greatest return. This is not selfish. This is intelligent. This is your brain operating at peak efficiency. Doing exactly what billions of years of evolution designed it to do. Allocating scarce resources to maximize well-being and survival. Trust it. It knows what it is doing. I want to leave you with something to carry with you as you move forward. A reframe that I hope will replace the guilt you have been carrying with a sense of quiet pride. You are not becoming less social. You are becoming more intentional. You are not losing friends. You are discovering which ones are real. You are not pulling away from the world. You are pulling toward yourself. You are not getting colder. You are getting clearer. Every time you honor your need for quiet, you are making an investment in your well-being. Every time you choose quality over quantity, you are demonstrating wisdom. Every time you sit in comfortable solitude instead of uncomfortable company, you are proving that you know yourself deeply enough to trust your own instincts. This is not the behavior of someone who is failing at life. This is the behavior of someone who is finally getting it right. You have spent decades building a life. Working. Caring. Giving. Sacrificing. And now you have earned the right to curate that life. To look at everything you have built and decide with love and intention what stays and what goes. What nourishes you and what depletes you. Who you want beside you and who you are ready to wish well from a distance. This is your time. Not in a selfish way. In a sacred way. The time that remains is precious. Not because it is running out, but because you finally understand its value. And understanding the value of something is the first step to using it wisely. So tomorrow morning when you wake up and check your phone and see a message inviting you somewhere you do not want to go, I want you to take a breath. I want you to put your hand on your chest. And I want you to say these words to yourself. I have given enough. I have shown up enough. I have earned the right to choose. And right now I choose me. Not because I do not care about others. But because I finally care about myself too. That is not cold. That is not selfish. That is not a sign of decline or disengagement, or emotional failure. That is the sound of a person who has lived fully and loved deeply and given generously, finally turning that same love inward. And it is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world. Your journey through this shift is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be honored. Every gray hair on your head represents a lesson learned. Every line on your face tells a story of laughter or tears or squinting into the sun on a day that mattered. Every quiet evening you spend alone is a testament to the fact that you have arrived at a place of self-knowledge that most people never reach. You are not at the end of something. You are at the beginning of something. The beginning of a chapter where you write the rules. Where you decide the pace. where the only person you need to please is the one looking back at you in the mirror. And that person has been waiting a long time for you to pay attention to them. They have been waiting behind every forced smile and every reluctant yes, and every evening spent somewhere you did not want to be. They have been patient. They have been quiet. But they have been there. And now finally you are listening. So listen well. Because that voice inside you, the one that says stay home tonight, the one that says this relationship has run its course, the one that says I need quiet, the one that says I am enough on my own, that voice is not your enemy. It is your oldest and most faithful friend. It is the voice that has been guiding you all along. Through every decision. Through every challenge. Through every season of your life. And it has brought you here. To this moment. To this understanding. To this beautiful realization that you do not need to be everything to everyone anymore. You just need to be yourself. Fully. Unapologetically. Gently. And that is more than enough. It has always been more than enough. You just could not see it until now. But now you can. And that changes everything. So close your eyes for a moment. Let the tension in your shoulders release. Feel the weight of decades of obligation lifting off your chest. And know this with absolute certainty. You are not broken. You are not cold. You are not failing at being human. You are succeeding at being wise. And the best part of your story is still being written. By you. In the quiet. In the stillness. In the beautiful unhurried space that you have finally given yourself permission to inhabit. Welcome to this chapter. You have earned every word of it.